Husbands, have you ever felt like you're living with a completely different wife than the one you married? One week she's vibrant, connected, and intimate, and the next week there's this invisible wall that goes up that you cannot explain.
And for the women listening, have you ever felt like a stranger in your own body? Maybe you've been blaming your marriage, your stress, or the lack of faith when it comes to desire. The reality is that it's not any of those things. It's actually happening at a cellular level. Last year, I hit a wall in my health that almost took me out. I went from feeling vibrant and connected to like dead in my body, specifically around touch. And I was lost in a fog. I was told by multiple doctors, "You're fine." When in fact, I was not fine in the least bit.
This is episode 9, and today we're discussing the hidden third party in your marriage. Hormones. We're going to break down there's a 24-hour cycle that men go through. It's the male clock versus the 28-day female clock or their cycle. And why the season of perimenopause is causing a crisis in marriage for couples over 35.
Yes. And this episode, we're moving from brokenness to restoration, and we're uncovering biological blind spots that are absolutely stealing away your intimacy. And this topic impacts every man and every woman, 100% of the population out there. And yet it's something we don't talk about. And so today we're talking about all the things. And this isn't just a health conversation. This is a rescue mission for your marriage. So listen up, take notes, and here we go.
This episode is for everyone, like Adele said. And it's important to know that Adele and I are not medical professionals. What we've done is compiled a lot of research and study that we have done on our own. And nothing that we say should be considered medical advice.
That's right. All right, let's start with the 24-hour male clock.
Okay, let's start with the 24-hour male clock, where men operate on a circadian, which is a daily hormonal rhythm. And our primary driver is the testosterone in our body. And it resets every single morning, and it's mostly consistent day after day. And so here's how it works.
Hold on. Not fair. Not fair.
I agree with you. Once we get to your 28-day cycle, I agree with you. I'm good with what I have.
Oh, you don't want to take a
want to
run
trade.
in this body for
I do not want to. In fact, I have so much empathy for you. I do not want to trade. So for men, this is typical. There's a morning peak between 6 and 9 a.m. This is when the testosterone is the highest. You're the most energetic, focused, highest libido is upon waking. Midday, it steadies and then tapers. Generally, it's consistent mood. In the evening, between 7 and 9 p.m., testosterone is at its lowest in the 24-hour cycle. And this is when the typical crash can happen, feeling more tired, less communicative, and more sensitive. And then there's the reset. That is, if you get good sleep, if you were to be able to have rest during sleep, you will reset. Otherwise, you're left at a deficit. And this can lead to irritability. And there is something called the IMS, the Irritable Male Syndrome, which is a real thing. Look it up yourself, do your own research, but that is a real thing that happens to men.
when the reset isn't happening.
Yeah, and specifically in the middle age,
Yes.
40s, 50s year old.
Yes. And then you're done. Like, that's it. That's the cycle.
That's it.
Oh.
That's it. There are some key takeaways, though, for couples to hear out
Okay.
of this. So the man's cycle resets daily. He often feels like the same person every morning. Like me, he may struggle to understand why his wife feels like a different person from week to week. What is up with that? Why do you change from week to week? You're a completely different person.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before that women tend to be complex. And after this episode, or during this episode, I think you're going to really clearly see just how complex that is. But I want you to keep in mind this is all God's design for the female body. Like, He designed us to be different than men. So let's jump into, we have 4 phases that are 28 days of a cycle. And the first, day 1 to 5, is called the menstrual cycle phase. So this is when estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest levels, meaning our sexual desire and libido is at its lowest. This can cause cramping and bloating and fatigue, and it all contributes to feeling less interested in sex.
You said this is 30 days a month? I can't remember. Oh, day 1 to 5. Okay.
But don't worry, this is totally normal, women. If you're not in the mood, that's okay. Your body is literally shedding its lining, so give yourself a break. And husbands, give your wife a break. There is an impact because our sexual desire is at its baseline. And so this is when women really need comfy intimacy. I made that up, by the way. It is a thing. Like, we need comfy.
Trademark.
And that includes like cuddling and rest and low pressure connection.
Fireplace, hot tea, and a blanket.
Yes, and a good book or a good chick flick or something like that. And her body needs deep rest and recovery during this phase. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is called the follicular phase. This is days 6 to 11. This is right after her cycle ends, the estrogen begins to rise steadily, gearing up for ovulation. And so, therefore, our mood and our energy and our interest in sex arises with those hormones. This helps us feel more confident and attractive and in the mood for intimacy. And I saw this video, I may link it in the description, where it was 3 minutes to a woman all month long and how she goes from one extreme to the next each week, like in the way she dresses, in the way she's feeling, the things she needs, the things she's desiring.
It was so eye-opening and relatable.
I was like, this explains what I've been experiencing my whole life. Now I understand why I am the way I am. So I'll link that below. But this is also when women were gearing up for growth and renewal, meaning our body is preparing for a potential pregnancy. And so even if that's not something you're planning on, your body is still doing the work to get ready for that. And so a lot of times we feel physically and emotionally motivated and clear, energized, connected. That's when I feel my best, is days 6 to 11. It's a great time to try new ways to connect, and she is often more physically receptive. All right, so let's look at phase 3. This is the ovulatory phase. This is days 12 to 14. Notice it's 2 days, 2 days long. This is when estrogen peaks and testosterone surges, and it's time for the body to ovulate. So we have a spike in our libido around this time. It's like our body is sending signals, let's be more sexually active, because our body's preparing for pregnancy and it automatically knows it's time. So it draws us into you. And it's also when we're the most fertile. So during this phase, oftentimes women feel and look more attractive. We feel more confident. Our skin is glowing. We feel magnetic, outgoing, and vibrant.
Yeah.
Like, that's when the cute clothes come out and I'm feeling cute and beautiful. And then we go into phase 4. Wah, wah, wah. Because then it's just right back down the cycle. So days 15 to 28, that's when progesterone rises, which is often called the chilling hormone, and estrogen begins to drop. And when progesterone is on its way up, while it's great for pregnancy, it is a libido killer. So as that progesterone is going up, our libido is going down. It brings on PMS symptoms like bloating and irritability as it drops, and that dampens the mood and sexual desire. Uh, Oftentimes, this is a great transition time to switch from being sexually active to more emotionally connected, because that's really what I'm craving during this phase of the month, and as well as other women. But if there are pressure and expectations there and she cannot fulfill them, it can really push her away, because it feels like such a block in the body.
Yeah.
So,
I have had almost a year of being able to research this with you to develop an understanding.
yes.
Because understanding this data that you just explained is really key to understanding. Like, if I make a bid towards sexual intimacy on Tuesday and you say no, it gives me more understanding that you're not saying no to me.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that's going on
Clearly, a lot.
that you could be saying no to, and we could have good conversation about it.
Exactly.
So understanding was just so powerful for me to get. Um,
Yeah,
so
I just want to ask the audience, because if you just learned something new about yourself or the woman you love, please put in the comments, I learned something new. Because this is revelation, and this is something that is not talked about and
right.
unfortunately highly under researched for women's health. But it's important that we are seeking to understand and know our spouse and the way that we're made by God, so that we can come together, have good communication, good openness, and understanding of each other.
As females, you make up over half the population. It like why would they not research this?
We're going to talk about that briefly in a minute, but it's sad to me,
Wow.
because, like, we just talked about the four phases. So that took me half of my life. Well, I shouldn't say half, because that's not really true, but all of my adult life to figure out my body.
Hmm.
And just when I feel like I got it figured out, it completely changes
Somebody
all
went to
over
that
again.
switchboard and hit all the buttons.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to be in control of the switchboard, and I'm completely out of control.
Yeah.
That is all
Does it feel out
changing,
of control?
fluctuating. Absolutely. It's absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about the perimenopause pivot. And this happens from age 35 to 50 and over. Perimenopause is a natural and transformative phase in a woman's life with massive hormonal shifts. That's why I was just saying it's really challenging. And it creates imbalance all over a woman's life. Recognizing these changes early allows women to explore effective solutions and embrace this transitional phase with confidence. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. It can begin up to 10 years before her final cycle or period, meaning many women in their 30s and 40s are suffering and they have no idea why. And that's my story.
Yeah.
I started suffering from this at around, from what I can gather, around 36, and I'm 42 now. And so for the last 6 years, I have been struggling and being told, you're fine, knowing things are not fine with me. And so let's just look at some research and what it says. According to ONS data, women initiate approximately 62 to 63% of all divorces in opposite sex couples. This number rises even higher in the midlife bracket.
Hmm. And according to a 2022 survey by the Family Law Menopause Project and the Newson Health, they found that 73% of women blamed menopause for the breakdown of their marriage.
And it's because there's a lack of support. Here's another research. It says it revealed that 70% of those women believed their marriage could have been saved if they had received better medical support or hormone replacement therapy early. That's key.
Yes, being able to say there's something going on in my body and I need to communicate about this with a professional. I need to have conversation with my spouse
That's right.
about
And
this.
that's what I think is critical, because this research, a critical part says in the knowledge gap, that surveys roughly 77% of women felt that their male partners did not understand what they were going through.
I had no clue what you're going through.
And when a husband doesn't understand the physiological root of his wife's withdrawal or irritability, he may respond with his own resentment or anger, creating a cycle of blind spots that leads to the final decision to separate.
And that's what I was experiencing. Not that I want to separate from you. I was confused and I was becoming resentful
Yes.
because I could not understand what was going on with you and what these mood swings were about and how you would change and be a different person. It was confusing. However, when I did do the research, my eyes were opened.
Hmm.
I have so much empathy for you
Thank
and
you.
what you're going through because I can't imagine what that would be like for me if I went through the same thing.
Oh, it's a roller coaster.
That's what it seems like.
Every month, we're on a ride
And you
that's
get to do
up
it
and
again
down
the
and
next
up
month.
and down. Yes, over
28
and over
days
and
later,
over.
you get to do it all over again.
That's right. Well, let's just talk about why these numbers are so high because it does impact our sexual intimacy. There is what's called the hormonal storm, where estrogen doesn't just drop during perimenopause, it fluctuates wildly, creating brain fog and irritability and many more symptoms. Declining estrogen leads to a thinning vaginal tissue and dryness, and research shows that 75% of women experience changes in sexual function, arousal, and comfort during this transition alone. So I think that's key there too. And then this is huge. 1 in 4 women experience severe sleep disruptions and night sweats. Clinical studies show that sleep deprivation is one of the highest predictors of low libido.
Hmm.
So when the wife isn't getting good sleep because her hormones won't let her, I mean, she's not going to have anything left for a sex drive.
Sleep is so important.
Yes. This also causes a wide range of symptoms, some which mimic other conditions, making perimenopause challenging to identify. That was my issue.
Yeah, so you're
Is
going to the doctor addressing these symptoms, these
Mhm.
different small symptoms, rather than there may be a bigger picture.
Yes. And they're not trained to know. Recognizing these symptoms can help empower us to seek effective treatments, such as hormone replacement or HRT, to improve our quality of life. Early stages often begin with subtle changes in the menstrual cycle. Ovulation becomes less predictable, and periods may start to vary in length and flow. Symptoms in this stage, such as irregular periods or mild hot flashes, are often considered the first signs of perimenopause. And here are more symptoms that progress through this stage.
There's
Now,
more?
listen to this list, and I experienced every one of them except for the last one. So, irregular periods, dryness, hot flashes, night sweats, appetite changes, weight changes and gaining, difficult sleeping, mood changes, decreased libido, urinary changes, brain fog, headaches, skin changes and hair loss, digestive changes, and flu-like symptoms.
Whoa.
And someday I was experiencing all of those at the same time. And you wonder why I'm irritable. So typically, all these symptoms become more pronounced due to the further decline of hormone levels in the late perimenopause stage, and periods may cease altogether. And that precedes the end of perimenopause and the onset of menopause, which is a whole nother stage. Now we change again. So that's 3 different stages in my lifetime that things just go haywire.
I can see why you were saying this statistic earlier about these divorces that are led by mostly women, and they blame perimenopause or menopause and hormones on the reason they're doing that, and then the confusion of the husbands.
Hmm.
This is making way more sense now. And I hope it's making way more sense to you that there, once again, episode 7, episode 8, now episode 9, there's a difference between men and women. There's a gap of understanding between men and women. And there's an importance to be able to effectively communicate with each other in a safe emotional environment to where we can talk this through.
Mm-hmm.
not to fix you,
Oh, there's no fixing this.
but I can understand. I can have empathy.
Yes.
We can have good conversation about next steps or the care that you're going to be receiving. That's
Yes.
important.
Yes. It is very important. So let's just talk briefly about menopause. This is the transition that marks the end of reproductive years and the onset of aging, which can be a very difficult and emotional time. And I've
So
I've experienced that.
medically, what that means is menopause means
You're getting old.
there is no more um, period. There's no
Right.
more cycle. It is done, and that is after a 1 year period
Right,
of.
which is how doctors um gauge
That's
if
right.
you're fine or not.
That's
Are you
why.
still having a period? Oh, then you're fine.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, that's
I'm
sad.
not.
Oh, that's sad.
So,
That's how they gauge it.
yes,
Oh
there's
wow.
a lot of speculations about menopause and stigmas like you will get cancer if you seek treatment that actually prevent women from getting the support and treatment they really need and that we deserve during this transition in our life. Um, So, the way that doctors measure menopause is it is the conclusion of the reproductive cycle, and they measure 12 months after that last cycle. And now you're in that menopause phase. But that can last 20 years from the time you start perimenopause to the time you have a year of no
Yeah.
cycle. Holy cow. Like, I feel like I'm in the beginning of it and have a long way to go. But that's crazy to me. So I just want to share a little bit of my personal story. You mentioned just a little bit ago of just all the understanding you have now. And I'm just so grateful for that because it is actually because of you that I started to identify this is a much bigger issue than what I'm looking at. Because I was experiencing severe hair loss around 4 years ago and no reason why. I mean, my hair was coming out in handfuls and chunks.
I remember.
And I was panicking and being filled with fear. And I was like, this is a spiritual battle. And I just kept taking it to the Lord and dealing with that. But I was also seeking doctors. Why is my hair falling out? And they're like, we don't really know. It could be your diet. It could be, something going on in your body, but it's just really challenging to know. We can put you on a medication. I mean, stuff like that. So I was getting no answers. But I hit the perimenopause, what I can really see hard about 2 years ago. And it has been so hard and so challenging
Yeah.
that had I not had you to have good conversation, you being understanding, me being open with what I was going through, I don't know where I would be. And so I just wanted to start by saying thank you for the support and the understanding that you have provided me has given me the ability to seek help and really get what I need. So,
I've received that. I appreciate that. And I
yeah,
was tired of not understanding you. And
yeah,
so I was determined to seek out what is perimenopause. I have no idea what menopause and perimenopause and hormones are.
yeah.
No clue.
Well, I didn't, and I'm a female.
So I just started doing some research to figure that out.
So last January, we did that 48-hour fast at the beginning of the year, and we were all gung ho on doing it. Well, I did not know that fasting like that without body preparation can send a female's hormones upside down. And that's what happened. My hormones tanked
Yeah.
after that fast. And I remember telling you, like, I am waking up soaking wet. I am not sleeping. Like, my sleep all of a sudden was upside down. I started gaining weight. I was having hot flashes all day long for no reason in the most inopportune times to have them. I was experiencing mood swings and irritability and very low libido. I felt like when you would touch me, and I know I shared this with you, like my skin, when you touch me, I feel the sensations and they feel nice. Not during this time. It felt like I don't touch me. My body feels dead. And when you touch me, it does not feel right.
Yeah.
The sensations weren't right. Like I wasn't interpreting it right. And it just felt uncomfortable
And that
to
was
me.
confusing to me because I felt rejection.
I don't even want you to hug me.
Right.
And I did not realize all of those things were hormonal until months into it. And I had been questioning my worth and my value, and my confidence was going down because I was gaining weight and I hadn't changed my eating in years. So, what in the world is going on? And that's when you and I started having conversation, and you actually said, "Hey, I listened to this podcast the other day and they were talking about perimenopause. It's all the symptoms you've been sharing that you have. You should listen." And I listened and I was like, that's exactly what I'm going through. Oh my goodness. I just didn't think at 41 I would be going through that. I
Yeah.
thought that was like a 50
Yeah.
thing. And what my understanding is now with the research that I've been doing is that due to lifestyle and environment changes in our world, women are experiencing this earlier and earlier, so much so that it's starting in our 30s. And 20 years ago, it didn't start until 50s. And so there has been a decline in health and how our body is reproducing and running, that it is breaking down faster.
That is so interesting. Just a side thought. I wonder if it has anything to do with food, processed food in the world and how
It is.
food
It
is
is the
done.
hormones that are put into food that
Yeah.
we consume impact our reproductive
Is that
system.
also why girls are having their cycle so much
Yes.
early?
It is.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because when I was growing up, it was not uncommon for girls to start their cycle 13 to 16.
Right.
Now
Hmm.
it is 9 to 12.
Yeah.
They're kids. They're just little kids at that age, not
Mm.
ready for all of the female changes. So I went to my OBGYN for help and was sharing all the things that were going on for me. And she was zero help whatsoever. In fact, when I told her I don't want to just cover up the symptoms with birth control because she wanted to put me on that. I haven't been on that in years. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to address the issue. And she was like, well, if you go down that route, you could get cancer. And as I was sitting
Wow.
there, like, I just experienced this fire inside of me that I was like, I know that's not true because I've been doing my research and that has been debunked. Like, so you're going off of old research from the 1980s that's not even true. And you're threatening me that if I go get real help for my hormones, I'm going to get cancer.
Hmm.
Like, I don't appreciate that.
No.
So I
Not from your
lost,
healthcare provider, not from someone you trust to help
right.
you with what you're going through. I imagine you want empathy, you want direction, you want
Yes,
professionalism,
conversation. I want
maybe
information,
options.
options. That's what I was really looking for. And I told you I'm going to go there first. I'm going to see what my options are.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go from there. And I just, as a side note, I want to say this is something I prayed really hard for last year is God direct my steps because I have no idea what the right thing for me is. And I'm still learning what that is. But He has helped direct me and brought people to me and resources and
God has.
information. Yes. And
That so let's just say that real quick. That's James 1 verses 5 and 6 that if you need wisdom, ask, he gives it generously. In
yes,
verse 6 that says that as long as you ask believing,
yes,
and he will. He'll
He
give
did.
you wisdom.
He did. He has walked me through every step because I have been going through this completely blind on who in my area can support me. And so I was not fine. Something that I find very interesting is that in my research, I have learned that OBGYNs have 1 hour of school on perimenopause and menopause. They're not trained in it. And in the 1980s, when they did all this research, I'm not going to go into that. You're going to have to go look that up for yourself. It's very interesting. But when they did all that research, they were targeting the wrong group of women that they were researching. So it was older women who had not had a period. So they were in menopause, and now they're trying to introduce hormones, and it didn't go well. And so, because it didn't go well, they shut billions and billions and billions of dollars, shut it down, and have not researched women's health since. And that is sad to me
Yeah.
because a urologist has more training in female hormones than an OBGYN does.
Yeah.
And there
Wow.
isn't like doctors of the previous generation that are passing down here's what you do for a woman who says this.
Yeah.
Instead, we're just labeled as whiny women syndrome. Oh, they're just complaining again. Oh, yeah, I'm complaining because I am like a foreigner in my own body and somebody needs to listen. And so there's all these doctors, women doctors, who are going through menopause right now and perimenopause, and they're like, what I've been telling my patients is wrong, and we need research. We need
Yeah.
information.
That's actually what doctors use as a private term within each other is, oh, that's a WWS patient.
Whiny women's syndrome.
Yeah.
That makes me angry.
Well, it
Um,
should. It should, because this is important. Your body is important. Your hormones are important. And it would be important to figure out like what is actually going on behind it. You mentioned something earlier about if you were to take these birth control pills, it would address the symptoms,
the symptoms,
but not the root.
right?
And what I love about the work that you and I do is we're not here to help marriages with symptoms
Yes.
because the root needs to be addressed in everything that we're doing,
Yes.
including this. The root needs to be addressed so that we take care of the symptoms later, but the
Yes.
root gets cleaned up.
Yes, that's exactly right. And now that I am under care of a physician who specializes in female hormones and perimenopause and menopause, I feel heard and seen and understood and cared for, even though we haven't gotten it right yet. Like we're still getting me balanced. However, I feel way more like myself now than I did a year ago. And I think this is just a journey that takes time of good communication with a doctor I trust
Mhm.
to know that they're doing what's best for me and not just textbook cookie cutter birth control.
You said what you've appreciated most out of these specific doctors that you're talking about now is the conversation and the education that they provide
Yes.
while they're with you.
Yes.
You're not just a number, you're not just a patient.
That's right.
They actually care and they give you education about the different things that they can offer or not
Yes.
offer.
Yes. And, the whole issue with birth control and just covering up the symptoms is that it helps me through the perimenopause transition. However, when I get to menopause, I have a whole nother host of problems because I cannot live without estrogen. Our heart runs on, you have estrogen in your body, by the way.
I know that now, but I did not know that before.
Our body runs on hormones. Like my brain needs it, my heart needs it, my organs need it to live. And so women's health is declining rapidly after 50 because they're getting heart disease and lung disease
Mm.
and ovarian cancer and all kinds of things because they don't have the hormones in their body. So birth control doesn't address that. So it addresses immediate things, but then you have long-term health concerns
Yeah,
and things you need to be careful of. Bone density is another one. We lose bone density without estrogen.
I've
And
heard
then,
that.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, that's not even talking about libido because without estrogen and testosterone, there is none. It shrivels up and dies. So we need it. We have to have it to survive. And another thing that learned for myself that I'm really concentrating on is eating a healthy diet and strength training, which is muscle building, because our muscles is what sustains our body in our later years. And without our muscles to help regulate our hormones, our body's just going to fail.
So strength training over cardiovascular or something like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That strength training needs to happen.
Yes.
Building of the muscle.
Building of the muscle because it holds everything in place, keeps your bones healthy and strong.
Yeah.
And then eating a healthy diet. I've cut out sugars and gluten, and I'm really just eating God's nature food right now to reduce inflammation because when our hormones are imbalanced, anything that is foreign in the body creates inflammation. And so when I gained 15 pounds last year, it was inflammation in my body and holding on to water because my hormones weren't working properly to have my body working properly.
Yeah.
So it's like one thing goes out of balance and then it's just this domino effect of everything else gets imbalanced too. And then
Yeah.
I'm just glad I caught it as early as I caught it because there's a lot of women I've talked to that are 10 years and they're miserable And it's a lonely, lonely road because nobody talks about this. And then they're told they're fine.
Yeah, I know that's been your experience when you have been speaking with women lately, that no one's talking about it. And when you've brought it up, it seems like a breath of fresh air to the people in front
It
of you
is.
to have this
Yes.
conversation. And in all these episodes, we're talking about there's a gap. There's a gap between men and women, and you just went through a lot of statistics. You vulnerably shared a lot of your own personal story, and
Yeah, it
I,
is a little warm in here after that.
speaking of hormones and hot flashes, I want to honor you for that because we don't have to sit here in front of the audience and share our personal life. We don't have to. In fact, it's not comfortable. It's
Yeah.
not it's not what we desire and want to do is sit here and share all of our personal stuff with you. But we're called by God to do that. And we feel that if we can share our stuff with you, not that you have the same story, but you'll be able to see yourself in our story.
Or see that you're normal. Just you're normal in what you're going through. That's
Yeah.
huge.
And so there is a gap between us and husbands. I want us to be able to connect that gap, to be able to see that there's things that we can do on the other side of women because it's not if it happens, it's when. Because although you are not a woman and although you do not have these insane changes that you experience, you have women in your life, moms, sisters, wives. Someone in your life is going to be a woman that's going to experience this because all women will experience this.
And every man is connected to a woman.
Every man.
Every man.
And so we need to be good partners, good intentional partners of our spouse and of our people that are in our life, not just bystanders. And here's how we can do it. Number one, um, not taking it personally. You know, when these mood shifts happen, whenever there is confusion on the other side of me with you,
Hmm.
I really can take it personally. Like you are against me. You no longer love me. You no longer want to be active with me. And I
Hmm.
need to know that that is not your heart.
Hmm. It's not a rejection. It literally is. I'm on low battery.
I need to have empathy for who you are and what you're going through and have an understanding that I do not need to take it personally. Next is the responsive desire model. This is researched by Dr. Rosemary Basin, and she suggests that many women, especially in midlife, they don't feel in the mood just out of the blue. Instead, their desire is receptive. It grows after physical touch or emotional connection begins. We talked about this in episode 7 when we talked about the two primary desire types. The
Hmm.
receptive desire is the second one. That's the one that most people have, especially most women.
Hmm.
And in this particular one, there's research that shows that in dealing with hormones, that your desire does grow after the physical touch or the
That's right.
emotional connection begins.
That's right. And I've seen that true for myself.
Next, I want to encourage you to protect her sleep. Sleep is important. This is important for all of us. But it would be helpful to protect sleep. Protect. You can do things like doing some of the chores around the house, helping with some of the workload. You know, one of our favorite comedians, pastors, and authors has this funny joke that he talks about whenever his wife and him are talking about.
When he makes the invitation.
Yeah, he makes the invitation for the bid for sexual relations, and his wife is like, "Yeah, I want to." You know, I want to be able to do that tonight. And so what he does is goes on, he works, makes sure all the kids are put to bed. When they get out of the room, he's like, "Get back in your room. Don't come out here." I'm protecting mom. I'm
Yes.
protecting her space.
He's reducing the friction
Yeah.
that could possibly take her out or prevent her from saying yes.
Yeah. And
It's
then
funny.
lastly, you know, this safety that we talked about, having this emotional safety with each other, being able to have that so that we can have good communication,
Yes.
open communication with each other about what's going on, knowing that you are understood, you feel valued, you're seen for what you're going through
Yes.
right now.
Yes. And that has been so valuable to me to receive that from you because, like I said, it was so confusing and challenging on my own that you could have added to that. You could have made it so much worse, but instead you were supportive and helpful and understanding and patient.
Yeah.
So patient with me as
Wow.
I'm trying to figure out this feels like a new body that I'm in.
Going back to those statistics you mentioned earlier, that's where those statistics would come in, and divorce is going to happen.
Yes.
And it's from lack of understanding, lack of empathy, lack of getting to understand each other.
I mean, you just had a husband say yesterday, I thought I knew my wife, and she was just this precious, sweet wife until her hormones changed. And now I have no idea who she
No
is.
clue. Yeah,
So it's a common thing
it is.
for marriages. So we want to give you some discussion questions that you can go over. So first, for the wife, this is for you to discover for yourself. Have I been judging myself for my lack of desire instead of looking at my hormonal health?
And for the husbands, how can I move from feeling rejected to being an ally in your health journey?
Yeah. And then for both spouses, what are the non-sexual ways we can maintain intimacy when the physical side feels challenging? So we've talked about a lot. We've pulled back the
Whole
curtain
lot
on
today.
the hidden third party in the marriage, which is
Hormones.
hormones. And we want you just to remember that this is a season.
Hmm.
You are not broken. Your marriage is not broken. And what my journey has taught me is that when I can stop judging my body and myself and start advocating for my health and my healing, then my healing can begin. And so can yours. And so I just want to encourage you with that. Don't give up. Keep seeking the help you need to balance your hormones. There are great doctors out there who do know what they're doing and have done their research. You just have to find them because they're like a needle in a haystack right now. But it's worth it.
And for husbands, once again, don't take it personally. This is an opportunity to be an ally in this season with your wife, to be able to understand them, to not take it as rejection for you, and you want to lead with emotional safety and creating a safe space for each
That's
other.
right. That's right. So, thank you for joining us today. And we are just excited about pursuing supernatural oneness. I hope you are still just as excited about this season as we are because we're not done. We've got more. And we're excited to continue bringing more knowledge and information so that you can heal your marriage and close the gap on understanding each other
Yeah.
fully.
Yeah, would you do us a favor? All through season 5, we're talking about God's design for sex and sexuality. And we would love for you to share these videos with other couples, other people, because this is not, I think they need that, or they don't need that, or I don't need that. We all need everything that we're talking about because this is God's design, and we
Mhm.
all have sexual organs.
Not only that, but couples all over the world are suffering in silence
Yes.
and they have no idea what to do. And so that's why we need you to share this episode. Please share this episode with everyone you know because we're all impacted by it.
Mm.
That is how you can support us.
And next, what we want you to do is click on this video. We have curated this video for you. It's 3 ways to stop misunderstanding your spouse in marriage.
Well, that's a needed one.
Right
It's an
here.
oldie but a goodie.
Is it an old one?
Uh-huh.
Oh, don't watch our
Oh,
old
it's hot.
videos.
It's hot in here.
I bet it is after that episode.
Woo! Mm-hmm.